Motion to re-enter the open session.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to enter open session pursuant to section 10-15-1H7, pending litigation McCoy versus Colfax County. Let the record reflect that only that item was discussed, no action was taken. And also, I would like the record to show that those present in the executive session included the commissioners, the county manager, Attorney Steve McConnell, Assessor Christy Graham, and Deputy Assessor Joe Martinez. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to re-enter open session. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Kern?
Yes.
Commissioner Trio?
Yes.
Chairman Brown?
Yes. All right, so we are now back in open session. We'll move on to item 14, which is discussion or action on failure to notify affected entities. I'm not sure, based on our closed session, that there's any action that needs to be taken at this time. So I don't know if we want to make a motion to table or postpone, or if we want to just take no action. But that's up to my two fellow commissioners. I will call for a motion in regards to that.
I'll make a motion to postpone that discussion to the next meeting.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to postpone item 14. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Kern?
Yes.
Commissioner Trio?
Yes.
And Chairman Brown?
Yes. On to item,
So on that issue, can I ask a question?
yes.
So we just want to know on behalf of the schools, who's gonna notify PED? Because we've already been in the negative for 3 months. And so it's causing a problem with the school, and I think it should be the responsibility of the county or the assessor or someone to send that notification to PED so the school can get their problems rectified with this problem that's caused because of the issues that took place. And they still have not notified them a thing. They send them the thing in the negative. The girl from the school, the business manager, she called this morning and has COVID. That's why she's not here, but she's under the impression like she's taking another hit for another $14,000 because that's what she's getting on the negative sheet. Can someone please explain this to them so they can get these things taken care of? This passing the buck one every 2 weeks to another 2 weeks is not solving the problem for them.
I understand, Mayor Lopez. I realize that this probably isn't happening quick enough for you. I do apologize for that. But all I can say is progress was made in this executive session we just had. And I think that it's my opinion that this issue will come to resolution at the next commission meeting. Madam Treasurer.
I will go ahead and get with, I have addresses, but I don't have phone numbers, so I will get with the schools, Luna, and take it upon myself and explain what happens, because it's hard to understand. I mean, I might have showed it to a couple of your commissioners, because we have to take that negative. It was a total of over 20,000, and then they collected probably 4, so it showed a negative 16. This last month, they might have collected 2,000, now it's 14. So I'll take it upon myself to go ahead and notify these.
Madam Treasurer, I appreciate that. I think that would be very helpful. And my request is that you copy the manager so that, or the commission on that response, so all the commissioners will be aware of exactly what was told to the disbursement agencies.
Okay.
Thank you,
I think
ma'am.
I'm gonna
Thank
have
you
to
very
get,
much.
I'll have to find somebody to get a hold of in Santa Fe. I can work with you all, and then I'll get out of the office.
Yeah, because the school has a certain list of managers that will be able to work with that community, so we'll get that information.
Okay.
I think they took care of it. I was just gonna suggest that maybe if the school could notify Lydia who your budget,
Manager is.
not your in-house one, but who's your budget analyst with the pen,
Oh, he-
and Lydia can copy them in on the notification as well. Thank you.
Okay, on to item 16. This is resolution 2023-08, a resolution calling to the New Mexico legislature to enhance the faith of voting public in election outcomes through improved election processes. This is a supportive resolution that I asked the commission to address. At the last meeting, it was postponed until this meeting. And at this point, what I would like, there was some opposition stated to this measure, and what I'd like to ask my fellow commissioners to do is to help me understand what about this resolution that they are in disagreement with.
My concerns, but I support photo ID at polling places, and I support that wholeheartedly. The effective removal of voters, where it talks about the need for electronic removal, we already have a system in place for that. As the clerk and her staff explained last time, that's the ERIC system. So I feel that there's some redundancy in there, and which is not necessary. I think post-election audits already take place, and so I think we're asking for things that we already have in place. Maybe obviously you feel differently about that, sir, but in absentee ballots, you know, if you ask somebody to send in a photo ID, then you lose your anonymity. So do I think, I think our system always has room for improvement, but I just don't feel that everything that's stated in here is necessary. Thank you.
I would, I go with the same, I'm all about supporting our voting and making sure it's secured. In my last statement that I made, I want to always encourage people to get out and vote and do it properly. I saw in here where there's an affidavit, and you are already providing a bunch of identification when you do vote, when you do mail-in vote. And to have to go out and get an affidavit, say the majority of the constituents are working, and I don't know if this affidavit would have to be notarized or not. You'd have to show an ID, and that's just going to make it more strenuous. After the end of the full work day, I'm not going to have any desire to go through with that. That's my thought on there. I'm okay with the drop off of ballot boxes here in Colfax County as far as that goes. I feel like they're monitored, they're notified. The clerk amongst, is it?
So Sarah and I and Amity are getting notification if something goes wrong with the ballot.
And then I've mimicked the other stuff that Mary Lou commented on. But also just the point that this is just a statement coming from a commission to Santa Fe, to the legislative session. I mean, it has no practical or legal effect. It's just much more so just a statement asking them to look into these. And at this point, I don't feel like it's necessary for us to move forward with that as far as the county goes. I feel like there's never be anybody that says that they're against us, but at the same point, if we send this down there, I feel it's outside of their preview.
Outside, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
Mr. Commissioner, outside of whose preview?
I'm just thinking politically here as far as being a red county and a state of blue. But that's more so on the latter. I mimic Commissioner Kern's issues.
Well, I appreciate that, and I would like to clarify some of the things that you said, because actually I think there is some misunderstanding about what this resolution says. First of all, it is the place of the county commission to do resolutions to notify our legislature on initiatives that we would like to see pursued. We do it all the time. We did it in the last meeting with 2 bills that were being placed. This one, to be honest with you, I have received this from a group that's an advocate for improvement in our voting system months ago, before the legislature actually even opened, or just prior to it. And I didn't bring it to the commission initially until I went and understood what was happening in House Bill 4 and the changes that this legislature is making in House Bill 4, which if you aren't aware of those, I really recommend that you do it, because in my opinion, House Bill 4 opens the door for voter fraud in the state of New Mexico. To me, these are some pretty basic issues that we could support at the county level to help prevent fraud in the voting process within the state of New Mexico. As I previously stated, my concern is not with Colfax County. Although I found the presentation at the last meeting very informative and enjoyed that presentation, I did not think it was necessary, because this issue isn't supportive of something that's going on necessarily at Colfax County as far as problems. I think this is more of a statewide issue, and like many issues that will come before this body, they affect us as a state and may not affect us directly, our county, or they may be issues that we don't have the power or authority to respond to. If the governor signs House Bill 4, it's going to become the law, and we will be obligated to abide by that law. And in doing so, again, I think it is going to open the door for ballot harvesting, and ballot harvesting, in my opinion, leads to the ability for there to be fraud in our voting system. The photo ID, Commissioner Trujillo, it's not requiring you to get an affidavit. It's saying that if you don't have one of the many other sources of ID that are available, an identification provided by a government agency, a passport, a driver's license, a student identification card, a commercial transaction card, an insurance card, a union card, a professional association card, or a voter identification card, if you don't have any of those, then you can still vote simply by signing an affidavit. So that's what item 1 talks about, and item 1 is basically to request legislation be passed that require a voter ID when people go to vote. The efficient removal of inactive voters. I can tell you this, that regardless of the activity that occurs here in Colfax County, which again, I think could be a model for the rest of the state. But I guarantee you, I've talked to my fellow commissioners and clerks and from other counties, and they don't all take the same care that we take here in Colfax County. Again, this is a resolution directed at our legislature to provide more effective laws to help prevent voter fraud. And on item 3, prohibit the use of unsupervised ballot drop boxes. So the question is, what's the definition of supervised? Our ballot drop boxes are not supervised. They're monitored, once a day, basically during,
Well, they're monitored
But there's a
24
camera.
hours a day. There's cameras on the available at watch drop boxes, and then there's sensors within the drop boxes.
their sensors within. So what this is saying is then that we not allow drop boxes that aren't monitored. It says, so anyhow, it is asking for unattended drop boxes, even those that are electronically surveyed, to be made illegal because they do pose an unacceptable risk to the election process. So in House Bill 4, I believe we're going to have to now have a minimum of 4. It's just 2. At one point, it was 4.
They were looking at dependent upon the size of the counties, and we do have the 2.
And where are those located?
Here, they're located here. We have one in the back for the people that can't get out of their vehicles, and we have one at
So they're both at this one.
Yes.
But this is to basically prohibit the use of unsupervised ballot drop boxes. And the other item is that even with absentee ballots, to try and provide an appropriate chain of custody and a photo ID. And as far as anonymity goes, to me, if you get something, you see that it's an ID and you separate it or you run it in, I think that, I don't think that that is going to break the trust where somebody can say, oh, I know how you voted. Because when I run it through the machine now, that goes in, well, I guess it goes into a system where they then can't review it later. But anyhow, my concern is that the voting system within New Mexico, and especially with House Bill 4, is opening the door to additional voter fraud. And I'll tell you what I would do, what I would be happy to do with this if the commissioners wanted to amend it and make it just item 1, because to me, the biggest item on this, the most important issue is that we have photo ID when we vote. So I would even be open to, as a friendly amendment to make this resolution strike items 2, 3, and 4 so that we can show support for photo ID in our voting process. My commissioners have, I'm sorry, yes ma'am.
Speak to the resolution.
Yeah, but she'll have to come.
What is it?
She wants to speak to the resolution. but-
Yes ma'am, can you come up here please?
Nancy Cole. I'd like to ask the county commissioners to please vote against this resolution. The voting rights bill is in the legislature right now. It's passing the Senate. Updates the New Mexico election code, making it easier for New Mexicans to vote. It expands automatic voter registration. It restores convicted felons' right to vote when they are released from prison. It creates voluntary permanent absentee list. And on that absentee list, if they do not vote 2 consecutive elections, they are removed. It enacts Native American Voting Rights Act to our election code by honoring existing political boundaries of tribes and pueblos. Lets them have translation services at the polls. Voters can designate tribal government buildings as their mailing addresses to facilitate the absentee voting, giving tribal governments the ability to administer elections in ways that make sense for their communities and honoring their local expertise and tribal sovereignty. I strongly believe we do not have a fraud problem and that voting should be made available to all citizens. Please vote no on this resolution. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions? Then the chair would entertain a motion. So there's no motion being made. We will move on to the next item. The next item is discussion of Resolution 2310, certifying county road mileage.
Yes, Commissioners, Chairman. This is just an annual certification of county maintained mileage report. The report goes to the New Mexico DOT. We do this every year. Our total mileage of maintained roads is 570.8 miles.
Are there any questions?
I make a motion, we approve resolution 2023-10, certifying county road mileage.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second on Resolution 2023-10, certifying county road mileage. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Kern,
Yes.
Commissioner Trio,
Yes.
Chairman Moore.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next is item 18, Resolution 2023-11, a resolution of the private counsel to regularly apprise status of litigation on behalf of the Colfax County to the Colfax County Commission, on behalf of the county to the Colfax County Commission. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, in light of recent events, this commission is taking proactive steps along with the manager's office to ensure that we're constantly improving and doing better. And with that, this resolution would require counsel hired by the county to represent the county in any litigation matter in which at least more than 6 months should keep the commissioners regularly appraised as to the status of the case every 3-month period. So I think once again, in any organization, communication is the lifeblood of that organization, and I think approving this resolution to keep the commission appraised in this area is important and vital, and I would recommend that the commission approve this resolution.
Any questions? And Mr. Manager, upon approval of this, it will be, this resolution will be brought into our policies and procedures for each department. How will that be handled?
It'll be a resolution and handled just like any other resolution. And we will, the manager's office will ensure that that the, in this case, that the elected offices receive a copy of this and are aware of it. So if we should select any kind of counsel that we need from, in addition to the county attorney, that once again, if this goes beyond 6 months, that they're reporting to the commission within 3 months of this. I think it's good to keep the commission appraised on any litigation that we have, and sometimes I think litigation is handled by a contracted attorney outside of our county attorney. Sometimes, well, obviously that wasn't occurring, and this is an effort to improve that.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
A second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2023-11, a resolution of the private council to regularly apprise status of litigation on behalf of the county to Colfax County Commission. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Kurt,
Yes.
Mr. Trillo.
Yes.
Chairman.
Yes. Item 19, approval of ARPA funds digitizing of county records. Mr. Manager?
Actually, that is
Oh.
Madam
Madam Clerk?
So we have discussed this several times regarding the digitization. As a matter of fact, when we toured the detention center, Chairman, we talked to you and Commissioner Trujillo, you were newly elected, you weren't in your current seat at this time. And the ARPA funds can be used for that purpose. We have records dating back to the 1800s in my office. It would be very devastating if we were to have a fire or even a water leak in there, that it would wipe out all those records. Our newspapers, I think we're just sitting on a gem right there with all those newspapers. Our documents would be made available not only in Colfax County, but through the United States and even worldwide, that they'd be able to review these documents. We would have, if we were to have an instance to where perhaps our records were compromised and we would be able to, and basically held at gunpoint so that they want to go in and charge the county hundreds of thousands of dollars to recover our records, like has happened in a couple of the counties within the state of Mexico already. Our documents would be stored on the cloud, as well as we would have a backup copy of microfiche so that we would be able to import those documents back into the system. We've gone through, we went ahead and we got quotes for the Sheriff's Department, the Clerk's Department, HR, the Assessor and the Treasurer's Office. We will need to have equipment to continue to scan any documents in that we receive from the point that we're at, once they start scanning documents. And then we would have to have a software license for application extender so that the documents would be able to be reviewed. Also, something that, and I'm sure if any of the other department heads want to speak on behalf of their documents in their office, but something that I think is very beneficial with application extender, your minutes, you won't have to call me when I'm older and grayer to ask when this happened or when that happened. It actually goes in with word recognition, so you could actually search the minutes.
Any other questions or comments from the commissioners?
I have some questions. So with your office, I know you have microfilms too. Are those going to be turned into digital copies?
Yes, everything in there with the microfilm, and we also have aperture cards from way back. That'll be brought into the system as well.
And this would be, so this is mostly would be a one-time cost with the document management software platform. Is that a one-time cost, or would that be kind of a yearly cost?
That'll be a yearly cost for us to have application extender, and I believe it's pretty close to like 20 licenses that we would have to be able to review the documents.
Okay. And then, so my other question is compatibility. Let's say we move away from this company or something like this. Is this documents mostly like PDF? Can they be transferred to another?
They will be our documents. They will be transferable. Right now, what I do and what I'm hoping we could do after we get all of these documents digitized, what I do on a weekly basis, or my office does, is we go in and every document we scan in, we convert that, we send it off to a company, the images, and they convert it to fish. So we would be able to do that through that company, and it would cost us a lot less.
And then the last thing, this would most likely, I guess it's more of a statement and just a confirmation. This would kind of cut down on the time it takes for HIPAA requests, would it not?
It will, and then some of our books, we still have to go in our office and pull out those big heavy books, so we wouldn't have to do that anymore. We would be able to search the documents as well as anybody else, search whatever document they're looking for and be able to print it off of the machines, off of our computers.
Thank you.
And I believe it would help with our IFRS, so everything would be available. You know, if they're looking for minutes or something, we could actually find when whatever was discussed and kind of go back and search for that document. And not to mention space-wise.
Commissioner Kern, did you have any?
No, just a comment, I don't have any further questions, but I know, this has been on the ICIP for forever. I know prior to when I was county manager, and it always gets kicked down because it is, quite expensive. But there's a tremendous amount of records in the sheriff's office, at the detention center that have to be kept forever, just like here. So I think it's a wise move and expense to bring us to the 21st century. And, and as this comes out of COVID, it makes it easier because everybody has the access online and that. And, it's not as big stress on our staff and that when people come in and are looking to search records, so.
And I have one last question, I apologize. Did they give an estimated, I want to make sure this is all going to be completed by a third party, not the county itself, and then also, did they give an estimated time frame if this is a go, when it would be finished?
Thank you for your question. So we will not be doing any of the work. The work will be done, up to this point, will be done by a third party. Also, they were telling me probably about 6 to 9 months, because we've got a lot of documents. Some of our documents, what I will do is, they will come in and they'll box up our records as they do in the court system, and they will give us, they've got insurance, they will give us an inventory of the documents they take. They will take as many of our documents off-site, so it does cost less. Like for the sheriff and the detention center, their records cannot be released. So they will come in and they will scan the documents at either location. They did ask us if we would just be able to they'd be able to set up at one location, whether it be at the sheriff's department or at the detention center. When we met with them, I believe the sheriff said he might be able just to transport his documents over and maybe they could seal off the Sally Port so that we'd be able to have they'd be able to work out of the Sally Port.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Mr. King?
You may have stated it, I didn't hear, but I have no faith in the cloud, period.
Right.
Are you going, once all this is digitized, are you gonna have like a hard drive copy that is stored safely here or somewhere else in the event of a fire or other? And what are you gonna do with the paper copies you have now?
So the ideal is, can you hear me?
Yeah.
The ideal is, I'm a little raspy today. The ideal is that we are having 2 sets of microfiche printed off so that we can have one copy here for in case something happens. Another copy, we have talked about renting a safety deposit box elsewhere and putting it in another location. And then the rolls of film the boxes of film are probably about maybe 2 inches wide. So what we're considering is looking at seeing if we can store those in Santa Fe at state archives.
Okay.
And then we are working with IT on keeping those documents safe, but that's how we plan to do it at this time.
All right. I know your girls hate me when I come in.
No,
They have to pull all them big bugs and stand there, but I have no faith in the cloud.
Right.
And at the rate Hoops broke into. And so I just wanted to know what the county's backup and security was. And you may have stated it, but I didn't hear that part. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Madam Clerk, that actually raises, so these are gonna be digitized, right? And they will be stored on our servers or on the web?
On their servers.
On their servers.
We have the option
So
to,
basically over the web,
Yeah.
because,
but we do have the option to do a duplicate backup if we don't have servers, but we'd have to purchase additional servers for that, depending on the space. So there is that
do
option.
you have any idea how much space this is gonna take?
Did they give an estimate on?
I don't know if he, I don't believe he did.
It's gonna be, I'm sure it's gonna be a lot, but it is, again, it's one of those, and Commissioner Kern mentioned this, this is something that's going on, and the longer we wait on something like this, the more documents we're gonna have, the more expensive it's gonna get as we go. Because
Well, we're gonna have the same expense, because
eventually
we're
it's
gonna have
gonna
the
have to
same
go.
documents, and they're gonna cost the same thing to get into the system, right?
No, it costs more. They, as time goes on, because like, oh, sorry for interrupting. Like right now, it's like the microfiche, just the microfiche itself, they're having a hard time getting that, so all that stuff is increasing for the microfiche and the jackets and whatnot.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying you're still gonna have the same number of documents, whether you do it now or do it next week. You're gonna have the same number of documents that are gonna have to go through the system, and the cost is gonna be similar. It may be more because of inflation, but the cost is similar, because we're gonna have the same number of documents either way. Mr. Tatum, and part of your question, it looks like the data is going to be stored offsite. And I don't know what the data center for this customer looks like, but in most modern data centers, they have an offsite data center. So my guess is the electronic version, it's a guess, but if they're a reputable company in the technology industry, they would have multiple sites of access because, power, things happen besides fire that may prevent you from being able to access one site, and generally they have a fail site that you would go to the end user that you may even not know that one of the sites failed. I hope that's the case. Yes.
And we do have a lot of our records that we scanned in, they are stored on our server. We do have a server in our office.
But, I mean, that's the question. It doesn't appear, unless it's embedded in the hardware, that there's any upgrades for our server equipment to handle this system. There's not. So, we wouldn't incur any expense to that. I will tell, and so, just so everybody's clear, this is a one-time fee, estimate of $1.7 million. That would utilize basically what's remaining of our ARPA funds. Because right now we have 1.9, but what I found out was that we haven't moved the lost revenue portion of the ARPA funds out of the ARPA line item into our general fund yet. And that was approximately $250,000, something in that range? 230. So, as a matter of fact, based on that, we may not even have enough ARPA funds to cover 100% of this that we currently have available. And on top of that, it's going to be an ongoing fee of approximately $50,000 a year, plus the depreciation of equipment and so on that would normally go on this. I guess my concern is that this price has just kept inching up. When I talked to the people originally back at the New Mexico County's meeting, they felt that it would be under under $1 million. It meant that they were kicking around 700,000-800,000. Then Rayetta had a meeting with them, and she came back and reported to the commission that it was going to be more like 1.2 million. And now we're talking about $1.7 million to do this. And although I am a big advocate of this, and when I was at the Village of Angel Fire twice, I put before the council to automate to digitize all of the records for the village, it ultimately was shot down both times because it was too expensive. And the village felt that at that time, there were better uses for the money that it was gonna require. I will tell you, it was nothing like this. It was in the $400,000 range to digitize all of the village main fire at that time. But this is a much older government agency, and so I imagine we have a lot more documents than they do in Angel Fire. My concern is that, to me, I have nothing against the software. I will tell you, I think my recommendation is gonna be that we vote to postpone this because I'd like to see the vendor be here. I mean, and I also need to understand the process. I mean, this is like just one guy's estimate. I'm not sure what we're supposed to be voting on at this point, but it's definitely gonna have to go through procurement. There's multiple vendors out there in the marketplace that do this.
They're on state contract.
So they're on state contracts so that we could purchase without going through procurement. So again, I would like to have the vendor appear, show us, and we can understand exactly what the benefit's gonna be. Things like what is the interface gonna be? How will the public access the interface? How will staff access the interface? You know, there are things of this nature that I think are important for us to understand when we're making a purchase in the $1.7 million range. Quite frankly, I'm not convinced at this point, and this is odd for me to be the one saying this, that, you know, at $900,000, maybe even $1 million, this would be more favorable to me. But at 1.7, really, if you round it 1.8, I'm concerned this isn't the best use of that money. We have many other needs in this county that money could be used for. And I think this would be good, but, you know, I just think 1.7, almost 1.8, or towards $1.8 million is a lot of money to spend on this at this time with some of the other issues that we have going on in the county. So,
Chairman,
yes.
could you put a value on what some of our old marriage license back from the 1800s would be?
I'm not gonna be,
No, and I'm
no,
just
come on, let's don't go down that road. It's just like the other last meeting when we were talking about people dying.
well, but it's.
I mean,
it's a
you're
document
using an
that-
extreme situation to try and draw emotion.
If we have a fire,
This is a business decision.
if we have a fire in this building, it is a business decision, and I'm not saying we're going to, but if we lose all those records, then we might as well close our doors if we don't have backup.
Well, you know, there's other solutions other than this to solve that. I mean, you know, like I said, if we do have a lot of this on fish or whatever, I mean, maybe we should make copies of the fish and have that back there. But I get your point. I totally understand that if there's a fire, the consequences of that, if this building was to burn down. But again, we're talking about almost $1.8 million. And to me, that's not a decision you make lightly, especially when it's going to more than utilize the money that is out there currently for ARPA. So what I'd like to do is ask for a motion to postpone so that we can have the vendor come in and at least have the opportunity to show us the benefits that us and our constituents will be receiving if we do make a decision to expend this money. And in a couple of months, we're going to be going through beginning the budget process. And there's been a lot of other items that this county, like I said, is in need of. And I think that it might even make sense to incorporate this decision into that budgeting process. Because we need to understand, what I don't want to do is, this sounds great, let's go spend the money, and then get in the budgeting process and find out there's something that we feel is very important that we may have been able to do had we had this money, and then we now are not able to do. Because there are many aspects to the budgeting system, and I just think that when you're talking about spending $1.8 million, that I think you move cautiously.
Question, did they give you any kind of data on till this quote is good for?
He did not.
I understand where Commissioner Weir is coming from, because there's some other vital stuff that is the liability on the county side that I feel like we could use ARPA funds to assist with. And I guess this would be a question for the financial gentleman over here. Does we have that 1.7 after what Commissioner Weir was stating?
The total amount of ARPA money available is 1.9 million and some change. Commissioner Ware is correct that $230,000 was an option to transfer from general fund. It doesn't necessarily have to. That's up to the commission. And my review of the last two county budget workshops for the last 2 years, and just keep in mind that the ARPA money has gone through 2 budget workshops. It started in 2021, it went through 2022, and now we're on 2023. The only time that we've ever used any of the ARPA money was to pay for new plates and employees. So the only other thing that was recommended by commission was to use some of that as revenue, a loss of revenue in general fund. When you calculate that, it's $230,000. I guess it's up to this commission to decide if they choose to use that as the revenue replacement. You could only use it for 2020. So, I mean, I guess that would be up to the commission. There is money available to use the $230,000 for revenue loss plus the digitization of records. I did get a copy of the quote from county clerk, and I did also add in the $230,000 if commission did vote to transfer to general fund, and that does leave a balance of nearly $10,000.
When does these ARPA funds have to be expended by?
2025.
Actually, the final ruling, I think the final ruling says, and I know because I just went through this with June the other day. It was originally in the interim final rule, it was 2025, but they actually extended it. So it has to be encumbered by December 31st of 2024 and expended by December 31st of 2026.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Kern, do you have anything?
Yeah, just, if I may,
Oh, there's a
sure.
Your mic's on.
Okay, none.
There you go.
Thank you. Like I said, I know this has been on the ICIP for the county to do this for forever. We're never going to get the funding from the state to do this, obviously, because it's been, ran before them numerous times. They may not even consider it a capital expenditure. I mirror your concerns because, the cost has gone up as we've talked about it just in the short 90 days. Sometimes I've found in my experience that state contract is not always the cheapest. It is an easy way to dodge, the cumbersome process of procurement. But let me ask if maybe the clerk knows the answer to this. If there are other companies that are also on state contract that does this,
I don't know, I'd have to go in and research.
maybe we ask for, if there are, maybe ask for additional quotes. I totally support this and I will die on this hill that we spend some money to get this done. Maybe we do a little bit of research to try to find the best deal, whether it's through other state contracts or maybe we just go out to bid. Like I said, but I totally support that we move forward in being able to spend these ARPA funds in this fashion because I think this is just incredibly important to this county. Thank you.
I would support Commissioner Kern on that. So would you want a motion to postpone?
If you, that is an option to make a motion to postpone.
I'll make a motion to postpone further research and discussion on ARPA funds.
I would second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to postpone. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Kern?
Yes.
Commissioner Trujillo?
Yes.
Chairman?
Yes.
I would ask that county manager or get with the clerk and see if there are other entities that are on the state contract that could possibly do this. And also maybe if the other counties, maybe you can answer this, Rieta, if the other counties have gone out to bid, if they just use the state contract to do so.
I'll have to check, because I haven't heard any of the clerks stating about doing this, because it's,
I know some have
They
used
did in the
some of their
past, yeah.
funds, but I can't tell you specifically who did.
we'll see what we can find for you.
Thank you.
And you want it back by when? Next week?
Yeah,
If possible, yeah.
If possible, yeah.
And I do want to just thank you, Rieta, for taking the initiative to go get this done. So I really do thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you, and the other departments that have to partake in the estimate as well, because it's huge. It's huge.
And since we're continuing this conversation, we really ought to consider whether we want to go out to bid. I mean, a $1.7 million expenditure, and Commissioner Kern is right. I was a finance director for almost 5 years at the Village of Angel Fire, and rarely did we use state contracts simply because they rarely ended up being the least expensive alternative on high dollar items. We may use them for lower dollar items. But it's something, it's a lot of money. And I do see the benefit. I've advocated for this before, and had it come in even at 1.2, it may have persuaded me to think differently. But it's, for it to go from that time I had that meeting where it was going to be around $7,000 up to 1.8 million, that's, to me, I don't know, I just feel like that we need to make sure and cross all of our T's and dot all of our I's on this one before we make that type of expenditure.
So Chairman, real quick, I guess, and the reason that the price went up so much was because he didn't realize the amount of records that we all do have, that it's never been done.
Okay, so
I have a lot of time.
on to item number 11, which we moved down here below item 19. Item 11 is a presentation from Golden Spread Rural Frontier Coalition concerning Colfax County transportation.
Good morning, Commissioner Barely. Diane Dixon, citizen of Colfax.
Diane, can you pull the microphone? There you go, just make sure.
Okay,
Thank you.
is it better? Okay. Diane Dixon, citizen of Colfax County. With me, Ferdinand Garcia, CEO of Golden Spread Transportation in Clayton. This is an issue that's close to my heart. I recently lost a friend in part for lack of medical transportation in this area. I then learned that a medical transportation company existed 83 miles east in Clayton. So I contacted the owner, Ferdinand. We spoke, we discussed, the possibility of his opening a satellite office in Raton to serve Colfax County and all of the rural communities in Colfax County. Just want to mention two services that are significant to me that this company provides and would provide for the citizens of Colfax County. First one, free transportation to and from medical appointments for Medicare patient or recipients. And the other is free transportation to and from medical appointments for veterans of Colfax County. And with a husband that's a veteran and senior citizens who are veterans, this is an issue that we've had to deal with. So I believe this will benefit all of the people of Colfax County, and it's the right thing to do. So I offer to you Ferdinand Garcia.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I appreciate the opportunity to present a proposal to the county here. And basically, it amounts to what Diane just mentioned to you. We do public transportation out of Clayton. We've been doing it for about 18 years. And just as an example of the need, Clayton is much smaller than Raton. Union County is smaller than Colfax County as far as people go. In 2022, we did over 15,000 transports out of Clayton to different places, Amarillo, Texas, Oklahoma, Trinidad, Albuquerque, different places in New Mexico. My request, if we were to do something like this here, initially, we could send a driver in a vehicle from Clayton to here, pick up a client, take them wherever they want to go. The cost right now would be about $125 a trip that Colfax County would have to come up with. That's an initial thing. We are doing that right now on a very limited basis, but we got a grant from a foundation to pay this amount between here and Clayton. It's a deadhead thing. We would be coming from Clayton, drive a vehicle, come here, pick up a person and take them wherever. We have a contract with the New Mexico Department of Transportation, and we also have contracts with New Mexico Medicaid. Any client that is on Medicaid pays for it. They pay us direct. We will also take what we call private pay. We will come up and any of you need a ride wherever, we will set up the cost, what it would cost us to take you to Albuquerque, Las Vegas, Trinidad, or wherever. Those rates we don't have set up yet because we haven't done that here. But if this was possible, this would be done. Long term, what we would be looking at, if the county could supply Golden Spread with some kind of office space and vehicle storage space, we would put a vehicle initially here. We would have a dispatcher, we would have a driver, and all that would be handled out of here. As well as whatever Colfax County felt they could afford to pay to cover extra costs. That's going down long term. That issue would be like, well, it depends on what you folks would feel like doing. We're looking at that, I'm looking at that something down the road, 3 or 4 months, or 6 months before that could be actually established. And long-term goal, that's what it would be. Once that got set up, the business would be, it would just get bigger and bigger and bigger. We'd have to have more vehicles, we'd have to have more people working here. The office wouldn't have to get that much larger. be maintaining the same thing. On the office space itself, we have our own equipment. We would just have to have an office accessible to telephone and the internet, because we do everything electronically. And basically, okay, just in brief, our budget for Clayton is $315,000 a year. That's what it costs us to operate in Clayton. So as time would go, obviously those budgets are. But since we have a contract with the Mexico Department of Transportation, they pay us 80% of our administrative costs. They pay us 50% of our operating costs. And they leave it up to us to determine the cost of every trip. So we include the cost of every trip to be able to cover as much as that 50% or that 20% would be. Like I said, initially, we just need cost of this deadhead trip, because we would be sending a driver from Clayton to Raton and then back 160 miles. And the cost of gasoline, cost of labor, that's why I'm saying an estimate of $121 initially. If there was an office set up here, drivers here, a dispatcher here, by the dispatcher to schedule all the rides out of here. If Colfax County could come up with that, we could do with it. What we would do, we'd call it a satellite office. Everything is still being billed through our office out of Clayton, electronically. And not to enter something else out, but I heard on something about the cloud. We have everything in the cloud. We back up everything every week. I realize our type of paperwork is not like the county's is. The county's is humongous. But I'll believe in the cloud. So, but anyway, and we keep all these records, all of it. Everything from the cost of every trip was documented and backed up with the receipt. Everything. And those were all also put in on the cloud, so we always have access to anything that we need to do. Colfax County's responsibility, the way I want to present it to you in brief, is down the road, office space, storage place for our vehicles. We would start out with one vehicle initially, but I know it would go so fast. And we would even have to purchase other vehicles. If the county would be willing to pay for the cost of a vehicle, they would own the vehicle, we utilize it. But we have to request these budgets 2 years in advance. Also, we have to apply for these vehicles 2 years in advance. We don't have anything coming in 23. We do have a couple coming in 24. And they're, I call them vans. They're both handicapped and non-handicapped. And in Clayton, we have 2 12-passenger buses, for lack of better terminology, that we use to take groups. But it's up to Colfax County. We're willing to do our part. We will provide the service. Colfax County helps us. We can get into, you guys can discuss it, and we can come up with, if you have questions or whatever, feel free. I'm 85 miles away, but I'll come up here and meet with you all just to deal with the specifics of this type of problem if you want. And if you have any immediate questions right now, I'll be happy to try to answer them at this point.
Commissioners, any questions?
I don't have any, but it's nice to see you again. this discussion started way back in 19, and then we ran into, the big season of COVID and everything.
Yes.
The previous commission, they were very supportive of it, and we had initiated, this discussion, and then it kind of just came to a screeching halt. So I would be supportive of us to continue the dialogue and see if we can get something worked out, because there's definitely a need in the community for it. And I think we need, this is perfect timing going into budget and that for us to look at it and see if and what the county can do.
Commissioner Trujillo?
So essentially, I know from us being prior, the rough number for us would be about 110,000, or the number is roughly about 110,000 for a full year of services. Going off of Union County, maybe off of 315,000.
Yes.
So, that would probably be just a recurring cost to the county, probably go up, just put that out there. I question the office part of it. I'd have to check with our legal counsel if that's anti-donation as far as that goes. But there's, something that probably could work.
And if something else is available
Yeah.
that, we could rent and somehow it's possible for the county to reimburse the rent, so. We will work any way that it's possible legally as well as otherwise with the county, as long as, we can get some kind of reimbursement.
Have any other local communities or anything been approached with this inside of Colfax County?
Have we been approached?
No, has other local cities or villages, other communities been approached?
No. No, and we're very busy out of Clayton. We weren't really looking for business elsewhere, but in talking to Lou and others here at home, the need is here. Well, I know the need is here because the need's in Clayton.
No,
We're providing that need. So this is our way of coming. At one point, I tried to get the state to contract with us to do a full-blown operation here. The Mexican Department of Transportation being who they are, well, let Matone do their thing for a year, and if it works out, then we might consider it. To me, that was not an answer. But that's the last lesson. Involved in that. But we're willing, we can do it. We get the assistance here, we can get this thing started. And if at some point down the road, an organization, even the county, can have this business. If they wanted to, we would help them out, and we'd roll out, and it would belong to the county. There are several public transportation organizations in New Mexico, and most of them are run or managed and operated by cities or counties. We now are the only nonprofit corporation doing public transportation in New Mexico. It's an expensive process. We're doing it because we feel the need is there, and we're making it.
And so you just answered one of my questions, I think. Y'all are a nonprofit organization.
Yes, we are.
And we do, I don't know the legals ins and outs of it, but we do have other nonprofits that we have contracts for, office space with that are highly beneficial. I'm sure if there is space available, which I don't know if there is, but if there is, I'm sure that you being a nonprofit, that there's a way to do that. And I'm basing that totally on the fact that we already do it with other nonprofits. But I wanted to make something clear. Your service would be for the entire county. It's
Correct.
just that you would house the vehicle in Raton.
Correct. This would be the base.
But if somebody and Miami called and needed to go to
Turkey, wherever.
Pueblo or something to the VA, you would take that transport on.
Sure, it would be done from here. That's why, and that's what we do. Everything is in Clayton, but we come to Des Moines, not many other villages in Union County, but we pick up people there and take them wherever. Right now, like I said, we have a contract with the New Mexico DOT and with Medicaid, a contract with them. We also just 2 years ago had a contract with the Veterans Administration in New Mexico. Now, whether to take veterans from here, I don't know if we would have to, whether there's districts or that between veterans organizations or not, I don't know. But right now, any veteran out of Union County, we could transport them to Albuquerque or to Amarillo, to the Veterans Hospital, or wherever they need to go. And we are doing that. This is our second year with our contract with the Veterans Administration. But we've been with Medicaid and DOT for the past 18 years. And every year, 2 years in advance, we have to request a budget of what it's going to cost us. So we have to guesstimate 2 years in advance what the cost will be, both in the purchase of vehicles, because the state will pay 80% of the vehicle, and we have to cover 20%.
So basically, the way the relationship would work, the county would be contracting with you to provide these services to the residents of Colfax County.
Correct.
So this would be a contract for services also, which part of the compensation of that could also be considered in as far as the structure goes. What is the, what do you see as the next step? I mean, I think you've had a chance to talk with the commissioners prior to the meeting, right?
He did, yes.
Yeah. Or at least Diane did. And I guess my question to you at this point is, I mean, to me, there's no question that the community needs a service. And we do have, especially the veterans, we have a highly disproportionate number of veterans in Colfax County as compared to other counties in New Mexico. And so I think that would be very welcoming to our veterans. But I guess my question is, what do you see as the next step in if we were going to attempt to make this happen?
Okay, initially, like I said, we'd be driving home plane initially. Is assistance on gas and labor for that driver and vehicle, or gas for the vehicle, because we would be coming from Clayton, come up here to pick up the client and take them away. Once we get here, they're either the veteran who will get paid for the veterans, or on Medicaid, and Medicaid would pay us. So the big cost is this deadhead, this 160 miles of deadhead. Cost for that initially, that's all we would be asking initially.
So my guess is, since the cost is over 60,000, I don't know, we probably would have to go through procurement for that. Do you have the state contract?
With DOT, yes, New Mexico.
But not through the state? You don't have an agreement with the state for purchases? Like, a lot of vendors will have a state contract where they offer state pricing.
No, we don't.
I didn't think so. So,
They do use this in Union County, so I'm not sure how Union County works with them.
Yeah, now Union County, for example, how they did it, I don't know, but they assist us for our purposes with 50,000 a year. They just outright give us 50,000.
and then,
How they justify that, I don't know.
and so you don't have a contract with Union County?
No. They just make that decision. I presented, told them we need help, in continuing, this was in the early days, we were trying to 50,000 a year. And they've been doing that now for 8 or 9 years. How that goes, I don't know, that part, I'm not familiar with.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just to let you know, I did get a text from legal counsel who advised that he doesn't believe this would be an anti-donation issue. At the same time, I would just let the commission know that if all they need is an office and basically to house a vehicle, I think the manager's office could come up with something in order to facilitate that need.
Okay, and along those same lines, in Clayton, the highway department let us use their barn to store our vehicles. All we needed was a structure so they wouldn't be out in the open. It didn't have to be indoors even, we just had it in there behind the fence. Until now, we have our own storage facility in Clayton.
So are there any other questions from the commission or concerns? So, Mr. Manager, what I'd like to do is for you to investigate the proper way forward. Do we have to go through procurement? Do we need an MOU or a contract? What is the proper way forward? And then perhaps we can, come up with some ideas, something that's more specific as far as what the requirements and any monies that the county would have to do. I do think this would be a huge benefit for the county. I'd like to see, yes, Jonah?
I just have a question just for our clarification on the research procurement. I mean, we're not paying them to do the service for us, correct?
Or it would be a service for our constituents.
Yeah, but procurement would be if we were going into a professional services agreement for them to provide a service through the county.
If we get direct, that we wouldn't be that.
Okay, I just wanted, you're gonna use the insurance of whoever is providing,
Yes.
whoever requested the
We
transportation.
cover everything.
Yeah,
That's what I was understanding, but I
I
guess
think the only,
procurement kind of threw me off.
in my perspective, and maybe you can make sure that I'm correct, the only thing we would be doing would be committing to some sort of money to help them facilitate their operation.
Correct.
So in my mind, the first thing that comes to my mind is the miscellaneous appropriations, that we kind of go through the process during the budget with a similar program, which would be the citizen, or I think it's the foster grandparents program, where they provide transportation to senior citizens at no cost. And they actually just approached the commission during the budget workshop, and we have, I think, just a contract agreement where we provide a certain amount of funds to that program. It's,
Yeah, and if that's the process, then I would say, if that's what we do with others, I would say that's what we should do here. I was just saying we need to make sure exactly.
from what my understanding is, it's just a contract agreement between us, and in that situation, it's the seniors, I think it's the it's foster grandparent program, I think the sponsor
And we
is.
do a couple of others
Yeah.
as well. I mean, that's not the only one, but we do similar ones like this. I just wouldn't, I know they come before the commission to approve the contracts on an annual or biannual basis.
Right.
But I wasn't sure what the other side of procurement was.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I had it correct.
Okay.
As far as the county over there, all they're requiring of us is we provide them every quarter with a number of rides, and we break it out because there's wheelchair rides and out-of-town rides and in-town rides, just a 3-month schedule of what we've done, that's all they require. We didn't have to sign anything, whatever. But that's what they're using as the need for the rides, I guess.
Well, again, it is something that I think would be great for our community if we could work it out. I think that, we'll task the county manager with trying to pull something together. And we can pick this up once we get that information at a future meeting. And at that time, Mr. Manager, it'd be nice if we had an idea on which building, and, you know, and I don't know, some of the commissioners may want to look at it or have conversations, whatever, but I think that definitely sounds like, I mean, we're not taking a vote here, but
Correct.
if,
More
you know,
information. One other question, maybe if the county manager could determine if this is something that indigent funds could be used for.
what funds?
Indigent funds.
Indigent funds. That's actually a really good question.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commission, this is something that the county manager would be happy to take on, and I agree with you. I think it could be a substantial benefit for the citizens of Colfax County, and we will start moving forward on that.
All right.
And just a brief rundown, we incorporated in 1998 with a handout of $150, and today our net worth is around 5 million. And we have progressed, not all, we do others besides this. We have personal care programs. We have a total of 47 employees just in Clayton. That includes transportation and this personal care program. And then on the side, we build low-income rental apartment complexes. We've got 14 right now. The closest here, we've got 4 in Towns, which is the closest here, and then all the way down to Hobbs. We do all of those things as well. So that's where we've gone. We operate with a 7-member board of directors. And I just happen to be the board chair and president and have been all along. Unfortunately, I guess, but I'm still there. But we have come a long way, and at the present time, just to let what we're still involved in, we're in the process of getting money to build an assisted living facility in Clayton. We need one back. And unfortunately, to do that, we have no market rental properties in Clayton, so we're also going after a 20-unit apartment complex that we're working on. We have the property to put it on, and both complexes. And also, again, I don't know how the legalities are, anti-donation and all that, but the city of Clayton owns a lot of land there in Clayton. And out near the airport and the National Guard Army, they have some property there. They have actually allowed us to build this assisted living facility on this city property. So that can be counted. That's who we are. We have 10 vehicles right now. 5 of them are on the road almost every day, most of them out of town. And we do local trips, go to the grocery store, go to the drugstore, whatever. We're doing all that in Clayton.
Well, let's walk before we run, but I will tell you, we do have needs in the area of housing as well, and so that might be something at a future date we'd be interested in talking with you about. But I think right now we should proceed. All right. Okay, thank you very much, sir. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Call me, email me, any questions? I'll be happy. Thank you.
All right.
Diane,
Thank
thank
you very
you as
much.
well. For your efforts, thank you.
Okay, item 20, Commissioner's Docket. Commissioner Kern?
I really don't have any update. The trash has been better, but I know at least just a point of information for the manager, Maxwell hasn't been picked up in 2 weeks. It's really not an issue yet, but they haven't been there in 2 weeks, just for your information. I know the managers, I'm anticipating a update about the bathrooms at the event center. And I would also ask the county manager if he could provide Commissioner Trujillo and myself and maybe Commissioner Weir as well, just out of his curiosity a copy of the ETZ ordinance, the most current one, as we have a meeting Thursday night. And I think it'd be important for us to have that. So, just a question, not so much an update. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Kurt, about the ETZ. I just want to thank everyone, all the public participants that come here, just everyone that comes. I do appreciate it. I know sometimes it's a long drive and your input is much appreciated. Just want to give you an update too. For the vacation of A17, got with Glenn Stevens last week and we went out there, checked it out. I got my eyes on it. I've been working with Tabitha as well here in the office to get physical addresses to get the board together and everything else. So I wanted to let the constituents know that we are making progress and I'm pushing this along as fast as we can. Also, I touched base with Glenn briefly on the road paving that's to come for my district out there, District 1 of some dirt roads. I know he's working with DOT on that and they're going to be getting surveyors out there in the time to come. When I did meet with Glenn though, it was great. Those county roads are amazing and some of them are even better than the state highway. So even on the way back, we decided to take the county road, which I'm glad we did because got beat up pretty good on that state road going out there. I don't mean to bash the state road, but out there, when I was out there, I met Glenn out at the road yard, and this is just one thing I do want to task with the county manager. I don't have a specific time frame on it, but I don't know how many of you have been out there, but it's almost like a junkyard, and it's no fault to the road department there. There's vehicles from the senior citizens, you name it, the department out there, there is stuff that is on the road department's area. So I just like a lot of that stuff is outdated and probably not needed, so maybe if we could look to auction that stuff off or just get rid of it and make it more presentable for the neighborhood out there. I'm sure the road department would appreciate being able to move around and get clear around. But I do want to thank Glenn for your time last week. I really appreciate it. It was very insightful. And I see the need for the upgrade on new facilities as well. So I'm going to do my best to push for that as a commissioner with my fellow commissioners. The next thing is Senator Lujan has this congressional direct spending. I already kind of briefly talked with the county manager. I'm going to put Colfax County here. I'm going to do it myself since we're limited on time. I'm just going to put for general facility and infrastructure improvement to the county. So this way we could kind of hit a broad scope of things and try to get Senator Lujan up here to kind of see the facilities and stuff that we can do, or that we could, if there's federal appropriation money, why not try for it to benefit the whole county as a whole? And that could go for roads, for offices in our building, HVAC systems, kind of whatever. That's why I'm going to hit it kind of broad. I've also been meeting as a new commissioner. I'm really truly wanting to understand the departments and offices that are out here. And I've already met with some of the elected offices and a few of the departments, and I'm going down the list, but it's been very insightful and very helpful. So I just thank you to those elected officers and department heads that I haven't met with. I am doing this is kind of a campaign promise. I'm finally getting my feet underneath me. This has been a big learning curve being on the commission. It's more time than I anticipated, and I'm very thankful though to have the flexibility to meet that. And on March 23rd at Sage Coffee here in Raton, I'm going to just be having I call it a coffee with the commissioner. So it's just going to be me, but you're welcome to come down there. You're welcome to sit there and visit with me or purchase your own coffee, snacks, or whatever. This is just an opportunity because in business I've learned that there's always different ways to communicate. Some people like to communicate in person. Some people don't want to come up here and voice their opinions. Some people want to email. Some people only want to text. So this is just another way to hear from not only my constituents, but if there's other constituents in other areas, you're welcome to come to visit with me as well. So, and I believe that's all I had. I was gonna ask, I got briefly updated about the Tiger Grant stuff, and we received some stuff in the mail. You guys probably got it this morning. But I was gonna have county manager, maybe he could address that in his manager's office.
Address what, sir?
The DNSA.
Tiger.
Okay. Just so we're all on the same page.
You bet.
Thank you.
So one thing that I want to do, I want to make sure that it does look like Moreno Valley is having or Angel Fire Resort is having a record year this year. This is Texas Spring Break Week, and their parking lots are overflowing, literally overflowing. Like, they don't have enough parking spaces for all the people that are going up on the mountain right now, which is good for us financially. But it does, what will happen is that we're gonna have probably the largest amount of trash for the year this weekend, because people were coming up even yesterday, today. I've seen a lot of Texas license plates heading up towards the valley. And when they leave, they don't all dump it in the cans in Angel Fire. A lot of their trash is left in county cans as they leave the area. So, Mr. Manager, I'd like to make a recommendation that we get with Tri-State and see if they can pick up on Friday and again on Monday. Because I guarantee you, if you empty them on Friday, they'll probably be full by the end of the day Saturday. Because people will start going home on Saturday since they want to take some time off before they go back to work on Monday. It'd be great to have them picked up on Sunday, but I don't know how practical that is. But at least Friday and then again on Monday, and our solid waste department should be ready for some calls from constituents saying everything's full, it's going to happen. Also, in that regard, we do have another big storm right now. You never know what the weather is, right? But currently being predicted is another big storm that's going to come in on Thursday of this week. And so this final weekend at the resort is going to be crazy. Angel Fire set up to 16 inches of snow in this storm. It's supposed to come in Thursday and last through Monday. So Glenn, I just think you should keep your eye on the weather and be ready for that. The valley's full. So there's going to be a lot of traffic issues. And so just be prepared for that. I actually, we've had an okay year this year. I think we're around 180 inches of snow. Our average is 210. But to be frank, we need some 250, 270 years to get our water tables back up. So even though it's a lot of work for you, Glenn, I'm actually praying that we have that big storm that's being predicted. But I would say just be ready for that and know that hopefully it'll come. Also, on the congressional spending that Commissioner Trujillo is doing on behalf of the county, I think that's fantastic. I appreciate you doing that. I know our staff are all very busy, and I feel like often Colfax County misses out on grant opportunities, which is the impetus for hopefully we'll find the money in the upcoming budget to have a special projects coordinator that can do things like this for us. But I am on, unless, I'm told not to, I am going to sign a letter or my intent is to sign a letter of support today. As a commissioner, I know it wasn't put before the commission as a vote, so I don't think we can, unless you want to do your own letter of support, but I am going to put it on county letterhead for a program that is trying to get started up for Colfax County. And it's an educational program to interact with all of the school districts in Colfax County to start a construction industry education program. I don't know if y'all know or not, but the superintendent of Cimarron Schools, Don Estrada, who's been our superintendent for over 10 years, his love, I would say, I don't know about love, maybe that's extreme. His passion beyond education is construction. And he's, for the fun of it, remodeled several homes and built homes in his lifetime. And so he's getting ready to retire come June 30th, and he's starting up a new organization. I don't know if it's a nonprofit or what it is, but it's going to be utilizing, it's going to be a program to interact with our high schools in Colfax County to educate students on the construction industry and work to try and get them qualifications. And in doing that, he's working with North Central New Mexico Economic Development District, and they've applied for some grants, and if they get them, they will actually go out, purchase the properties of homes in Colfax County that are currently unoccupied. And then Mr. Estrada's nonprofit is going to work with high school students in the community to rehab the house. North Central will then put it on the market, sell it, and use that money to buy another house and keep doing the same thing. So they are asking for a letter of support in order to get a grant to pay for the equipment that they need for the students to use, you know, hammers and a trailer and maybe even a truck, things like that. And so as Commissioner Trujillo may be aware, the timing on these congressional expenditures is short. The public wasn't given a ton of notice about them. As a matter of fact, our representative and our other Senator Heinrich's deadlines have already passed. One was on the 10th and one was on the 12th, but we still have the deadline for Senator Luan, who is 16th, I think.
Yes.
And so I feel bad. Normally I would bring this before the commission and ask the commissions so that we could all sign that. I just didn't learn about it in time to get it on this agenda. And so hopefully I don't get too much trouble for using county letterhead to support this project for Mr. Estrada.
I support it, and I'd be more than happy to join you on signing that. It's huge. I'm a big believer. I'm not knocking college, but I believe not everyone needs to go to college. And in the process of working on property I have right now, and my plumber bills and contracting bills are in the hundreds of dollars. And I mean, it's great pay, great work. I mean, it's wonderful. So I support.
All right, thank you.
I do as well.
Okay.
Can't you guys, excuse me, Chairman, can't you guys just do it and then bring it retro back to the next agenda for approval? Ratify it. Okay.
Okay, that's a great idea. So that's what I'll do. I have the letter, I just gotta put it on letterhead. And I gotta put, I guess now I need to put your guys, signing spots for you guys on it. And then we'll put it on the next agenda to ratify. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Thank you.
So would you need signatures today, or?
Yeah, I could do this, I could do it within the next hour or whatever. I don't know, do y'all not have time?
I've got to go to a dentist appointment, but I can swing back by or something.
Okay. I think the key is maybe we can get it set up and leave it here. Then I can ask the manager to email it to Mr. Estrada. He does need it by the 16th because Senator Luan is asking for 2 support letters for each submission. I'm sorry?
I said you are correct.
So this is one of their support letters. And with that, that's all I have.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. One thing I'd just like to speak to is the issue of the county attorney and cost. One thing I will state is by not going to the county attorney previously, we are dealing with substantial loss and damages to Colfax County. I think one of the wisest decisions made was having the county attorney actually attend the county commission meetings. That way, if anything would be presented that wasn't legal, or wasn't right, the county attorney can act as a safety net for those reasons. I do think we have a very competent county attorney that is doing a good job. And unfortunately, as a result of some of the issues that we're managing now, they're not going to go away quickly. We're going to be dealing with some of these issues for some time. So I would say that it is what it is for now. Eventually, these issues will be resolved in the proper way, and hopefully we can get back to some normalcy. I was asked to provide information on the event center and kind of where we're at in a scheme like that. And I want you to know that since becoming your county manager, we have identified a lot of needs with the event center and trying to correct those needs. I actually, when I first started, got assistance from our county engineer and actually worked with Anita, with Roll Matone, and prioritized that in the event center and our capital improvement plan. And we did go for a $1 million grant. However, that didn't occur. But one of the priorities that we're looking at is continuing to move forward with the event center and make significant improvements. With that, the county commission approved a grant award from the state of New Mexico Department of Finance on August of 2022 in the amount of $45,000 to plan, design, construct, and renovate and equip the Colfax County Event Center. Also, if you would like to review the minutes from the July 12th, the lodger's tax encumbered $101,805.16 for repairs and improvements to the Colfax County Event Center. The project is ready to begin with the plan design phase. The maintenance director and the chief procurement officer and I will continue to proceed in that fashion. Some of the other things I would just like to thank some folks is I would like to thank the maintenance director and Dale, our IT director. As you can tell with the new screens and the repositioning of speakers and things like that, the acoustics in this auditorium I think have improved. We're going a little further. I think we have the foam that goes on the wall, so we'll be putting that up. One of the issues that I think has been a problem for a long time is acoustics in this room. And so we look to correct that. So I want to thank Fred and Dale as well. As far as some of the solid waste issues, very well noted, commissioners. We will continue to work on that. I received some very positive input from the commissioners regarding the mapping system, which shows every dumpster site, roads and everything else within Colfax County. And once again, I want to give credit to Tiana and Virginia. I think they did an incredible job in providing that. And I had been asked to provide something by Chairman Weir, and I was glad that they could do it, which I thought was a very positive outcome. And once again, I think those the mapping can be utilized to kind of zero in even on neighborhoods and stuff like that. We utilized it yesterday to actually look at the Black Lake solid waste area and kind of check out what was going on. Road and Bridge, and Commissioner Trujillo, I absolutely agree with you. I think we need to move forward. I think there's been years where vehicles have been allowed to accumulate. And once again, I think the way that you dispose of that is through auctions. And so I will work with Jonah on trying to get an auction set up, and I'll get rid of a lot of that stuff. Some of the other things, along with you, and I think I had provided a briefing to the commission. I went out and visited with Glenn. We looked at pits, we looked at infrastructure out there, we looked at the yard, and I think that once again, road and bridge facilities have not been improved upon for quite some time. And I think it would behoove the commission at a later date, as we get into the budget process, to actually go out there and look at some of those facilities as part of a commission meeting, similar to what we do at the jail. But I do think that in this budget process, we're going to need to tackle some pretty significant issues out there. And once again, one picture is worth 1,000 words, and I think when the commission actually has the opportunity to go out and look at what we're talking about, I think you're going to be surprised. Commissioner Trujillo, as far as the Tiger grant, what I would like to do is have Jonah come up. And Jonah, as part of your presentation, I would like you to actually incorporate into your presentation just how time consuming the Tiger grant has been, how much revenue has been kind of out there for a while until we can get it recovered. And it has, it's a big deal, and it takes a lot of your time and a lot of your energy. And I'd like you to just kind of explain to the commission how that works.
So just a quick overview of what the status of the project is. I previously reported to the commission that about 90% of the work is complete, which is true. It is. They have filed for an extension on the actual project itself due to some electrical issues that are still needing to be wrapped up. Where the problem lies is actually being able to remit payment to the stakeholders, which would be BNSF, New Mexico DOT, Colorado DOT, Rio Metro. So the project in itself has been, I guess, kind of a situation where we don't always necessarily have all the cooperation that we need. Colfax County is not in the business of railroad. So we rely very heavily on Rio Metro, BNSF, Amtrak, New Mexico DOT, Colorado DOT to provide the status of what the project is. And so when we don't always have that communication, it puts us in a situation where, as the county, we're not knowledgeable in what is going on with that project. So the communication has improved. We were able to actually get all of our reporting requirements up to date. However, because of the size of the payments, we didn't always have enough money to remit those payments. So because of the grant is reimbursement based, we ran into some issues of us remitting the payment, and then because of the timing, and sometimes the reimbursements didn't come in a timely manner, their obligation to remit reimbursement is up to 30 days. So when you have a $5 million expenditure and you don't have $5 million until the reimbursement comes in, it sometimes puts us in a situation where we were in violation of DMA requirements. So we were having to void those checks in order to wait for the reimbursement to come in and then reissue, and then we would have to remit the payment. One of the other issues that we faced was the Colorado Department of Transportation had a change in staff, where they were kind of having some issues actually approving the contract with Colfax County. So at that point, we hadn't received any of their matching funds for, I think it was until finally last year. And I think and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Kern, but I believe their match was nearly $2 million.
I don't remember exactly what it was, Jonah, but you're absolutely right. I think there was turnover 3 times in the amount of time that we were trying to get that contract finalized, so it was a nightmare.
So, I mean, I'm not exactly trying to say that it has been kind of a trying situation, but it has been a trying situation. When you have that many agencies coming together, and this is just my personal opinion, I don't think that Colfax County was the right fit to facilitate that significant size of a grant. We just don't have the cash flow. We didn't have the experience working in the capacity that we were supposed to be working in. And just in my experience it was very difficult to have communication with these big agencies who we relied on so heavily to complete our reporting requirements. So with that being said, there has been a change in staff with FRA again. The staff with FRA is now, I think, a little bit more local. The majority of the people we worked with were coming from back east. Now Miguel, who I just met with last week, as a matter of fact, is actually from Denver, Colorado. She's the previous CFO for Denver County. So she's been actually really helpful in helping us work through some of the challenges that we've been met. All of our reporting requirements are current, and so now we are going to begin the process of actually submitting for reimbursement. Well, we'll have to issue payment and then submit for reimbursement, and then we'll be able to distribute payment. That should probably definitely be able to happen well before May.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this update and understanding. Thank you.
You're welcome. Also, for any other questions.
Well, I would just like to add to what Jonah said. It was a nightmare to deal with it because it was so large, so many entities involved in it, trying to coordinate them, and then in the middle of COVID and everything else, and turnovers in staff on everybody's department. But, I guess all that to say, if it ever comes up again, hard pass as far as us being the administrator of the grant.
I would agree.
Let somebody else do it.
I would agree. It was such a hard, and honestly, there was no administration fees or anything like that we were able to actually collect. The only thing that we were able to, any kind of revenue that we got from Colfax County was any kind of interest that received within that interest-bearing account that we had to open up. And then the other thing being said is, when we obligated Colfax County to be the partner in this situation and to actually facilitate the grant, we were told that we would have a whole lot of support from the previous county who facilitated that. Well, that gentleman retired. So we got absolutely no direction. And so, we kind of went into this blind. It was, I can't stress enough that in my opinion, it was just not a good match for Colfax County to facilitate this grant.
Still your floor.
I just want to thank Jonah. This is a monster, and once again, as I've stated, Jonah is more than just a financial specialist. And she is truly an asset to Colfax County, and we appreciate her. So thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I'll start for any other questions.
Any other questions for Jonah?
Good. Thank you. I don't have anything else, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so with that, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So
Second. I have a motion in a second. Madam Clerk, will you take it away?
Commissioner Kern?
yes.
Chairman?
Yes,
I'd like to say,
meeting adjourned.
Did you want me to?
sure. You know what?